Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horror Stories. I know many of you use these episodes to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the episodes. Story 1. I should have said no when my coworker Danny first suggested setting me up with her amazing friend. I laughed it off and let it slide. Blind dates weren't my thing, and Valentine's Day was literally the last day I wanted to spend awkwardly getting to know a stranger. But Danny was relentless. "She's funny, she's smart, and she's gorgeous," she insisted, nudging me. "Come on, man, it's just dinner. Worst case scenario, you walk away with an awkward story." She had a point, and after an insanely long shift, I spent the night watching couples toast with glasses over ridiculously expensive steaks. I thought, why not? Maybe I'd surprise myself. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was not asking for more details. The restaurant was a small Italian place in River North, dimly lit, with the smell of garlic and freshly baked bread hanging in the air. Nice enough to set the mood, but not overly fancy. I got there a little early and texted Danny to confirm she was still going through with this ridiculous setup. Then she walked in. Maya. She had a clean, defined beauty. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back into a sleek ponytail, and red lipstick that matched her dress. She smiled, and for a second I thought maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea. We ordered some drinks and the conversation started to flow. It was easy to talk to her. She laughed at my jokes, asked me about my job. I told her I was a waiter, some of my weirdest customer interactions, the usual light first date banter. And then it got strange. "You must be exhausted," she said, swirling her glass absent-mindedly. "After last night, closing so late." I blinked. "How do you know I had to close?" She giggled. "Danny mentioned it." That made sense, but there was something about how casually she said it, as if she didn't even think about it. That gave me a bad feeling. I shrugged it off and asked about her job. She said she worked in marketing, or so she claimed, but her answers were vague. The conversation drifted toward family, and I told her about my younger brother, who had just started college. "Oh, at Loyola, right?" My stomach tightened. I hadn't mentioned the university. "Yeah," I answered slowly. "How do you know that?" She tilted her head, smiling like it was a joke. "You posted it, the picture of his move-in day at the dorm. So cute." I stared at her. I'd posted that picture months ago, buried in my feed. Something wasn't adding up. I looked at my phone, trying to think of an excuse to leave. Then she mentioned a local coffee shop. I go to a lot and describe my usual order with unsettling precision. I laughed, assuming she'd just guessed. "I've seen you there," she said. "A lot of times." That threw me off. I had never noticed her, but she described the spot where I usually sit, how I fidget with my phone while I wait. Then she talked about my building, the route I take home after work, the laundromat I use. My stomach clenched. Those weren't things Danny would have told her. That wasn't casual knowledge. I tried to change the subject, but she leaned forward, rested her chin on her hand, and locked her eyes on mine. "Do you think you're hard to follow?" she whispered. "You're not." That was it. I needed to get out. I felt sick. The waiter showed up to ask if we wanted another round. I shook my head as I was already standing up. "I should go. I have to be up early tomorrow." Maya's expression didn't change. She just sighed and leaned back in her chair. "I knew you were going to try to run." My stomach dropped. I stepped back, almost bumping into the waiter. "What?" She stood up slowly, smoothing her dress. "You always leave places early. You always take the long way home." I did my best to keep my voice steady. "How long have you been watching me?" She looked at me like I was the weird one. "You're overthinking it." I turned and walked out onto the street. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone to text Danny. "Who the hell is Maya?" "What do you mean, who?" she replied. "You told me you were hitting it off." No, she knows things about me, personal things. That's weird, but maybe she just saw stuff online. I wanted to believe that, I really did, but deep down I knew better. Then a notification popped up, a message from an unknown number. Running doesn't help, you know. My mouth went dry. I looked around. People passed by, lost in their own worlds. There was no sign of her, no one obviously watching me. I broke into a run toward home and locked the door the second I stepped inside. Over the next few days, I barely slept until the messages started. At first, they were harmless. You left so fast, I wasn't done talking. Then, you always take 8th Street to get back, but not today, smart. And then, see you soon. I blocked the number. I changed my routine. Different routes home, a different coffee shop. I thought that would be enough, until Danny pulled me aside at work a week later. "She's back," she said quietly. "She asked about you." I told her I had replied that I had the night off, and she just smiled, like she already knew. That night nothing happened. No messages, no sign of her. A few days went by, then a week, then 2. I started to believe she had finally gotten tired. Maybe she got bored. Maybe she moved on. I let my guard down. I saw her again one night. I had just finished a late shift and was walking home, the cold biting through my jacket. I was almost at my building when I saw a figure near the entrance. At first I thought it was a neighbor, but as I got closer I recognized the red dress. She wasn't facing me. She stood still, staring up at my apartment window. My stomach knotted up. My first instinct was to turn around, but I was too close. She had to have seen me. I clenched my jaw and walked past, refusing to look directly at her, pretending not to recognize her. She didn't move. Not when I put the key in the door. Not when I slipped inside and took the stairs 2 at a time. When I reached my door, I pressed myself against it. Silent. Listening. Nothing. The next morning, she was gone. 2 nights later, something else happened. I woke up to the buzzing of my phone against the nightstand. A notification. Groggy, I grabbed it and squinted at the screen. Airdrop request. 1 photo. My breath caught. I didn't recognize the name attached to the request. I slid it away to decline, and another one popped up. 1 photo. Then another and another. I turned off my phone and lay there in the dark, barely breathing, ears straining for any noise outside the window. The street was silent. A week later, Danny called me. "You're not going to believe this." Maya wasn't her friend. Turns out she had been a regular at the restaurant, one of those customers you barely notice, who blend into the background. She had asked Danny to introduce us after weeks of eating there alone. Danny, thinking she was harmless, agreed. Then Danny looked into it a little more. Maya had done it before. She had followed another guy, wormed her way into his life. When he rejected her, she trashed his car and left notes on his front door. Things got so bad he moved across the country. I went to the police. They took my statement, but there wasn't much they could do. Technically, no crime had been committed. A restraining order wouldn't stop someone like her. So I did the only thing I could. I changed everything. I deleted my old social media, varied my route home every night, and never ever accepted a blind date again. I never heard from her again, but sometimes when I walk past a shop window or catch my reflection in a train door, I swear I see her, just for a second, and that's enough. Story 2. Valentine's Day wasn't exactly my thing. My girlfriend Elena knew that, but she loved it. So I always made an effort. Fancy dinner, candles, the whole show. This year we picked a waterfront restaurant in Miami, famous for its seafood and live jazz. It was packed. Couples toasting with champagne, waiters weaving between tables, the air thick with the smell of garlic butter and grilled fish. It should have been a perfect night, but from the moment we sat down I had a persistent flutter in my stomach, like something was wrong. At first I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was a vague tension, the feeling that something invisible was closing in around us. Then I saw him, a man sitting alone at a table in the back, mid-50s, receding hairline, an impeccable black suit that didn't quite fit him, too tight in the shoulders, like he had borrowed it. He didn't have any food in front of him, just a nearly full glass of red wine. What unsettled me most was his expression. He was watching us, not casually, not in passing, fixed without blinking. I tried to ignore it. Maybe he was alone on Valentine's Day and feeling sad. Maybe he was waiting for someone. But every time I looked up, his eyes were still locked on us, on Elena. She didn't notice him at first. She was swiping her finger down the menu, torn between the steak and the lobster risotto. I was barely paying attention to her. I was too busy keeping an eye on him. He didn't look at his phone, didn't look away, just sat there staring. A waiter passed by and I discreetly stopped him. "Hey," I said quietly. "The guy in the black suit over there. Do you know if he's waiting for someone?" The waiter glanced over his shoulder. "That one? He's been here for hours. Ordered a glass of wine and hasn't even touched it." A chill ran down my back. "Hours? Since before my shift started. Is he bothering you?" I hesitated, glancing at Elena, who was still oblivious. "No, it's just weird." The waiter nodded and walked away. I looked back at the man, and he was gone. The chair was empty, the untouched glass of wine still on the table. I let out a breath, rolling my shoulders as if I could shake off the unease. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe he had just left. Elena finally noticed my distraction. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah, I thought I saw someone I knew," I lied. "What are you going to order?" She smiled. "The lobster risotto, obviously." I tried to focus on the food, on Elena's laughter, on the warmth of the place. I kept telling myself it was nothing, but the feeling that something was wrong only grew stronger. Then the waiter came back. He slid something next to my plate, a small folded napkin. "What's this?" "It's from that man," he said. "He asked me to give it to you." I unfolded the napkin. My pulse sped up as I read the message. "How much? Name your price." For a second, I didn't understand. Then my stomach twisted. I looked up, scanning the restaurant. The man was no longer at his table, but I saw him by the exit, waiting. "Elena," I said quietly, "we have to go." "What? Why?" I slipped the napkin into my pocket. "I don't like this place. Let's go." She frowned, confused, but didn't argue. She left some money on the table. I grabbed my coat and stood up. As soon as we moved, the man stepped forward, cutting us off. "Leaving already?" His voice was soft, almost pleasant. I shifted slightly in front of Elena. "Yeah," I replied. He smiled. "A shame. I was hoping to make you a business proposal." I clenched my fists. "We're not interested." He studied me carefully. Then his gaze slid to Elena, and that disturbing smile widened. "Are you sure?" I took Elena's hand and pushed past him. To my relief, he didn't follow us. But as we stepped out onto the street, I could still feel his eyes on the back of my neck. We walked fast, weaving through tourists and Valentines couples. I didn't stop until we reached the parking lot, my chest tight with adrenaline. "Elena, get in the car." "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. "Who was that guy?" I took out the napkin and handed it to her. She read it. The color drained from her face. "What does this mean?" I shook my head. "I don't know, and I don't want to find out." I started the car, keeping an eye on the rearview mirror. There was no sign of him. Even so, I drove in the opposite direction of my apartment, winding through different streets to make sure we weren't being followed. Only when we were miles away did I finally exhale. We never saw him again. But that note still haunts me, not because of what it said, but because I'll never know exactly what he was offering, or what would have happened if I had given him an answer. Story 3. Valentine's Day was never a big deal for me. I didn't need grand romantic gestures, overpriced dinners, or heart-shaped chocolates, but the idea of doing something meaningful, something different, did appeal to me. That's why when my boyfriend Lucas suggested a nighttime walk through an old cemetery in Salem, I didn't completely object. He called it a kind of gothic romance. We had been dating for almost a year, and at the beginning he seemed perfect, attentive, charming, a little intense, but in a way that made me feel wanted. Over time, that intensity turned into something else, a possessiveness I tried to ignore. He didn't like me going out without telling him. He questioned my male friends. He made me feel guilty, subtly, for wanting space. Even so, he always managed to convince me it wasn't as bad as it seemed. He picked me up around 10 p.m. The streets of Salem were practically empty. The shops had been closed for a while. The cemetery, one of the oldest in the area, had an iron gate that was almost never truly locked. Tourists visited it often, even after dark. "This is going to be special," Lucas said as we walked between the gravestones. The air was cold and a light mist swirled close to the ground, making the tombs seem like they were floating. I tried to play along, to find some charm in the unsettling setting. We went deeper in, past the older graves, the ones whose names had been erased by time. The silence there felt different, heavier, denser. I was just about to suggest heading back when I noticed a single bouquet of fresh red roses, carefully placed on a grave. At first it seemed like a sweet gesture, some heartbroken lover remembering someone they had lost. Then I saw the note, and my name written on it. A deep, suffocating pressure tightened around my ribs. The card was simple, without any elaborate decorations. A plain white envelope, slightly damp from the mist. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside, in neat, careful handwriting, there were only 6 words. "So that you never leave me. Ever." A shiver ran through me that had nothing to do with the night air. I turned to Lucas, my breath caught in my throat, and held out the note. "Lucas, what the hell is this?" He was watching me, his face expressionless. Then he twisted his mouth into a half smile. "Do you like it?" "Do I like it?" I took a step back. The letter was shaking in my hand. "Is this a joke?" He shrugged. "It's poetic, don't you think? A love that lasts forever, even beyond death." My stomach twisted. "This isn't romantic, Lucas. It's terrifying." His expression darkened. "Why? Because I don't want to lose you." In that moment, I understood how far his obsession went. This wasn't love. It was control. Possession. "Let's go," I said. "This isn't funny." I turned to leave, but Lucas grabbed my wrist. Not violently, but firmly enough to stop me from walking away. "You always ruin everything," he muttered, squeezing harder. "I do something meaningful and you don't even appreciate it. You left a note with my name on a grave," I snapped. "How did you expect me to react? This is sick, Lucas." His jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he was going to do something, but suddenly he let out a breath and smiled. "Fine," he said. "Let's go." We walked back in silence. With every step, I forced myself to keep him in my peripheral vision. My pulse pounded in my temples, and every instinct screamed at me to get away from him. But I didn't want to provoke him. Not yet. Not there. When we reached the gate, I exhaled in relief. "I'll drive you home," he offered. "No," I replied, my voice firm. "I'll call an Uber." I wasn't sure what I saw in his eyes. Anger, amusement. He stepped a little closer and lowered his voice. "You're overreacting." I didn't answer. I took out my phone and ordered the ride, refusing to look at him until I saw the car's headlights approaching. Only then did I step away. Lucas watched me get in, his expression calm, composed as if nothing had happened. "See you soon," he said. I closed the door without answering. That night I didn't go home. I went straight to my friend Audrey's apartment, still shaking as I told her everything. She listened, and as I talked, her expression grew more and more horrified. "You have to block him," she said. "Now." So I did. I blocked his number, his social media, and I told my friends and coworkers that it was over. But Lucas wasn't done. In the days that followed, he showed up at my building, pounding on the door for hours. He left long voicemails, lectures about how I was making a mistake, about how he just wanted to talk. Then the text started. Different numbers, different accounts. You can't just disappear like this. We were meant to be. You know I'm not going to stop. The last straw came when Audrey called me from work, her voice shaking. He came here, she said. He asked about you. That night I went to the police and filed for a restraining order. Lucas stopped showing up. Not at my place, not at my job. Just like that, he vanished, leaving behind only the memory of that horrible night in the cemetery. For a while I kept waiting for something, a message, a call, a glimpse of him in a crowd. But nothing came. In time, I convinced myself it was over. Years have passed, and no matter how much time goes by, I still wonder if he's waiting. Story 4. Dating in this era is strange. As a bartender in San Diego, I meet tons of people, but something about online dating always gave me a bad feeling. Maybe it's the illusion of control, how easy it is to swipe left, ghost someone, or assume you know a person from a handful of curated photos. Still, after my last relationship fizzled out, I decided to give it another chance. His name was Jason, or at least that's what he told me. He was attractive, wrote smoothly over text, and seemed normal, something I was starting to realize was rare. We matched on a Monday, and by Wednesday we were already talking regularly. He asked about my favorite bars, my dog, even what my ideal Valentine's Day would look like. Harmless. But the more we talked, the more something felt off. His messages came too often, as if he were always waiting for my reply. He asked very specific questions about my schedule, when I worked, what time I finished, where I liked to go after my shift. At first, I chalked it up to standard small talk, but then came the subtle possessiveness. I bet guys hit on you all the time at work, he said. Must be exhausting. I played it off. Yeah, it comes with the job. But you don't pay attention to those guys, right? Red flag. I didn't answer right away, and another message came. I just don't want you surrounded by creeps. That's when my intuition kicked in. I needed to stop talking to him, so I did. I unmatched him and went on with my life, thinking that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A couple of days later, I noticed a new follower on my Instagram. No profile picture, no posts, a blank account. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but the timing made my skin crawl. I blocked the account and ignored it. Then on Valentine's Day, I got a text from an unknown number. Look outside. I stared at it, confused. Spam? A prank? Then another. Happy Valentine's Day, beautiful. I didn't recognize the number, but something in my gut told me exactly who it was. My fingers hovered over the keyboard when the third message came. That dress looks good on you. My blood ran cold. That night I was wearing a dress at work. I lifted my head toward the entrance and scanned the bar. Couples, a few regulars, no one unusual. My heart thundered. Another message. Smile for me. I didn't. I ducked behind the bar, pretending to check something on the lower shelf. My hands were shaking. I showed the messages to my coworker, Lisa, and she frowned. Are you sure it's him? She asked. Who else could it be? I replied. She grabbed my arm. You need to be careful. Seriously. I plastered on my best customer service smile, but inside I was miles from calm. How had he gotten my number? How did he know what I was wearing? Then it clicked. My social media. I'd been careless. My Instagram was public. Photos of my dog at the park, drinks at my favorite bar, selfies in front of my building, and a picture from that very morning wearing the same dress captioned, Valentine's shift, come grab a drink. He had put it all together, where I worked, the trail I left online. And now he was here. My shift ended at midnight. Lisa insisted on walking me to my car, and I was too rattled to argue. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few scattered vehicles. Mine was at the far end, where the security lights barely reached. As we approached, Lisa stiffened. "Is someone standing by your car?" I followed her gaze and my stomach dropped. A silhouette still, right up against the driver's side door. I sucked in a breath. The figure moved slightly, and under the weak glow of a distant street lamp, I saw the smile. Jason. "Shit," Lisa whispered, squeezing my arm. "We're not going to your car." We turned around and hurried back toward the bar. I refused to look behind me, but I could feel his stare. Once inside, Lisa locked the door. "We're calling the police." I didn't have the strength to argue, but when they arrived, Jason was already gone. I thought that would be the end of it, but over the next few days I noticed strange things. A car parked near my building that I didn't recognize, a silhouette standing on the corner when I took my dog out, a bouquet of red roses left at my door. No note, no name, just waiting to be found. The messages continued too, from random numbers, short phrases. "Why won't you talk to me? You can't ignore me forever." I blocked each number, but more kept coming. Lisa had me stay at her place, and even though I felt safer with someone around, I couldn't relax. Then one night the messages stopped, and that terrified me more than anything. A week passed with no texts. I finally went back home, tense but convincing myself it was over. Around 2 a.m, my phone buzzed with a single notification. A photo. Grainy, dark, but I recognized it instantly. My window. I called the police right away. By the time they arrived, he was gone, but I knew he had been there. I filed another report, locked down all my accounts, changed my number. The police couldn't do much. Technically, he hadn't committed a crime. They told me to stay alert. I packed a suitcase and left that night. Lisa didn't even ask questions when I showed up shaking at her door. She just hugged me and told me to stay as long as I needed. I did. Days turned into weeks. Every time I stepped outside, I felt watched. Every time my phone rang, I jolted. I barely slept, waking at the smallest noise. Lisa did her best to keep me calm. And then one night it was over. No more messages, no more photos, no more calls from unknown numbers. Silence. At first I felt relief. Then the relief turned into paranoia. Had he lost interest? Found someone else? Or was he just waiting for me to let my guard down? I wasn't going to risk it. I never went back to that apartment. Lisa and I looked for a new place together, with a security system, in a location he wouldn't know. It took some effort, but we found it. A clean start. A home where I didn't feel the need to keep the blinds shut 24/7. And still I catch myself scanning the street. Still I hesitate before posting anything online. Because the truth is, he was never just some random guy from a dating app. He was a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the most terrifying people aren't the ones lurking in dark alleys or abandoned houses. Sometimes they're the ones who already know exactly where you live. If these stories made you rethink your Valentine's Day plans, give it a like and share it with someone who enjoys a good scare. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. You never know when the next chilling tale will drop. Have you ever had a Valentine's Day turn into something dark? Tell us your experience in the comments. We're dying to read it. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and remember, love isn't always sweet. Sometimes it's terrifying. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next nightmare.